I'm Ralph Lolies. I'm German, located close to Frankfurt, and I'm responsible for the Panduit sales and marketing operations in all EMEA, means Central Europe, as well as Africa and Middle East. That means my responsibility goes from, I would say, Saudi Arabia up through the whole continent and Africa into Russia and the UK, Ireland. So pretty big region, a lot of countries, and that's one of the reasons why we're here today, joining the TridentTech event, which for me is very important, and I want to go to this a little later. So first of all, again, coming back to the actual situation and coming back to the agenda I have in mind, I want to talk a little about our passion and innovation ambitions. We want to talk a little about growth in my presentation, a few words on customer service as well, and then the assets we can bring to you as Panduit, as well as Trident as a joint organization. Finally, I think I owe you and the Trident team a few deep dive here as well, and a few words on the event as such. So unfortunately, as you see, I can't be with you, and that's due to the Corona issue situation. We had quite very unexpected move. I can tell you that when we built plan 2020, end of 2019, nobody had in mind that we have a kind of deep impact of the business. Good thing for the European operations of Panduit, we were able to nearly maintain 2019 level of revenues. So we did not drop much. In reality, we're about 2% below 2019. The market has collapsed between 8 and 14, depending on what vertical you are talking about. Means we have gained market share in the European region during the crisis, and now it's on us to defend that gained market share, and that's where we need you guys and Trident and our team to support that. We're not willing to give gained market share away again. The virus, as you may notice in the news, is still around us. We have a bunch of countries where the infections are increasing. Some of the countries increase heavily, I have to say. Germany is one of them. We don't know what that means, but for example, the German government is going to declare more restrictions again. So lockdowns and all these kind of things coming up. Nevertheless, we've proven once we can survive and grow, and we'll do that this time again. So I think, what we are going to talk about, I will not go very technical in this presentation here, because technical is the role of all my colleagues and friends from EMEA and the US. And that's the purpose of this partner event. I owe you a little more high level. Who is Panduit? What are we doing? So we're very proud of that picture. And I use this one in most of my presentations. You can see a product that was the first product Panduit invented. The owner and the founder of Panduit, Jeff Paliga, about 60 years ago. And the good thing about it is that product is still in use. That means he invented something. And 60 years ago, I was about 2 years old, so I had no clue what he was doing. But we brought a product that was sustainable, and I think the success story of Panduit over all these 60 years was a pretty consistent and pretty sustainable strategy, which I talk to in a minute, because you know who Panduit is today. We are more than 5,500 people, and we are more or less everywhere in the world. Starting with this, let me say, home activity on a very clever product by our founder, Jeff Paliga, who passed away a few years, unfortunately. But nevertheless, his mindset and his philosophy is still very deep in the business. That means I want to talk about a little innovation. We started with this, and you will see what happened to that product offer over those 60 years. And in principle, I would want to say that the strategy has been always, once I have a product that works, and by the way, our ambition is always and has always been, we are the better choice when it comes to service and delivery and quality of the product and the the parameters, the technical parameters, which are typically superior, which has a price. We are not a low-cost brand. We are not looking for cheap solutions. We are looking for solutions where customers are valuing our offer, which means we exclude ourselves from some portions of the market. We are very aware of this, but we are hunting for the business where the technical expertise and our value add has a meaning to our customers. That means, if I transfer this to the Middle East as an example, and your event as of today and tomorrow, we know that the Middle East, Africa data center market is expected to grow above 10% over the next 5 years. That's the overall DC market. And we see a lot of invest in countries specific like Egypt. Everybody in the room, I think, is aware about the new Cairo build, which offers a lot of opportunities. And we want to play that game. And as we don't have Panduit people on ground, we have decided to participate on that course through Trident, and Basil made the point when Basil approached me 3 years ago that he wants to leave my organization. I was first pretty shocked and worried, but when he told me about his business model, that he wanted to continue working for us, and what his vision was to build his business, I was fascinated, and we found an agreement which is on an exclusive basis. I mean, we know that Basil contributes to my revenue, because every deal he does is a Panduit deal when it comes to network infrastructure and electrical products, which we added only a year ago to his umbrella. And he knows that we will not work with anybody else in his region, which is a very fruitful relation, and it's a definite win-win over here. So as we know, I know the numbers very well. You may have heard about it. Basil's growth in the region is tremendous. It's double-digit every year, and we are pretty happy that we did that move, and we are happy to continue investing and supporting the Trident people wherever we can. You can see it on this event. Our people are there. You can see it, in the day-to-day business, that whenever Basil needs any help, our people come in, fly in. If it's business unit, if it's product management or whatever, you scroll a little too quick. Sorry for that. That's where we promise support, and that we are really proud of. And I think Basil is utilizing this a lot. Is that who is scrolling the slides? It's going too quick. Yeah, thank you. So we heard Tom Walsh talking about this, and we heard Jeff Paliga talking about this. Panduit is only strong when the partner and ecosystem around ourselves is strong, because we need that multiplier and reach into the market, which is people like you, same organizations like in Central Europe, for example, and around the world. Finally, in the region of Trident, the model is different. We have Trident only as our representative firm. We look at Basil and his team as being part of us, because first of all, we don't have anybody else in the region, and I think Basil can agree that we treat him like anybody else in Panduit. We provide the solutions, we provide the support, the training, we support these events, and we are there when they need us, which is extremely important. And that's why we take so much focus on building ecosystem, and ecosystem for us is substantial to survive. So if you go to the next, we missed one slide, I think. Can you go one back? Thank you. This is a whole Panduit play as of today. So I know that this event is on network infrastructure. I know this, but if you looked at the product we started with, Panduit really started at what we call the electrical side of the business, which is ICMRO, where you can see application on the photo, which is OEM, which is buses, trains, aircraft, and all these kind of things. That's where cable ties go in, and all the products we did for more than 60 years. The network infrastructure piece of it has a younger history. And if I look at what the strategy of our founder has been over the years and the team around him, I think whenever we had a good product, we looked around what goes into that product. So what goes into that cable trunking system, and what else goes outside that cable trunking system. So if you follow those cables going through these conduits, somewhere, and I think they ended up in a DC and saying, oh, here's applications Panduit could do. Because if you look at, let me say, a fully assembled cabinet, you will find cable ties. I'm not saying a cable tie is a major project in a fully configured cabinet. I think Tom Walsh and Holly would kill me for saying that. But it's one of the first products we had available to support people assembling those cabinets. And then we design piece by piece along the product path, I would call it, into additional solutions. And that's how we ended up in building cabinets and PDUs and other stuff that's coming up you will hear about. And we are completing that, being very selective on what we do, and being very selective as well on where we want to go with our solutions. And again, I have to point out again, we really exclude low quality, low performance, low price, low budget opportunities, because that's not our gameplay. So to the number I told you, we are about 5,500 people now. The company is more than $1 billion heavy. We are growing double digit this year, more than double digit, and the performance is definitely great. Coming a little to the close of my presentation here, I simply want to point out again my first frustration when Basil said, "I'm going to my dream is to run a company." And he stated himself, we were pretty supportive once we understood his idea. And I think over the last 3 years, both teams, Trident and Panduit, have very consequently followed the path to make this a win-win for both of us, as well as a win-win for the region, because the footprint we have now through Trident with quite a lot of people and very regional penetration, Panduit couldn't deliver this. We are focusing on the countries where we are strong, and we believe in people like Basil and his team. And he's paying back with that. We are pretty happy. So there's nothing that would, what I can think about should stop us moving forward. And from our side, we are going to be supportive as we've done. And you can see that picture over here. About 3 years ago, I remember it was very hot, but it was a very nice event, the opening of Basil's organization in Cairo. Very nice place, very nice audience. The guy to the right of Basil is Mark Nacy, Senior Vice President for Network Infrastructure, who was with us. Basil in the middle, and I'm that small guy to the right in the picture. So for that, I think I wish you really good 2 days. I really encourage you to listen, to have as much as you can takeaways from what you hear and see. I think if you take it serious, the takeaway will not be the end of collaboration and relationships. You will have questions beyond what you hear and see today and tomorrow. So feel free to reach out through Trident at any time. And if they need support with us, we are here. If you want to see applications live, we invite you to our briefing centers, either in London, Frankfurt, Milan, if necessary. We are here to host you there. We don't need those briefing centers because we know our products, but we create a lot of customer excitement, I would call it, when we get people into what we show you. And that includes Adlona, our most recent acquisition, which is also our My umbrella in Europe, grown very nicely. We are building the organization. It's a pretty small team, but the strategy is to use our Panduit sales force and technicians as a multiplier to support Adlona solutions, which means if you work in a country where Adlona is not, either Panduit is here or Trident is here to support you and give you anything you need. And by this, I'm closing. Thanks for listening. Any questions, feel free to reach out.
Thank you very much again, Ralph, and wish the next one we'll see you in person.
Thank you, Russell. Enjoy.
Good evening. My name is Tom Walsh. I'm the Vice President of Panduit's Enterprise Business Unit, and I trust this finds you safe and healthy at this point. We've been on almost a 2-year journey. I was talking to some of my friends recently overseas, and it'll be almost 2 years before I'll see them again. So boy, this has been a crazy time. However, with that, I would like to thank Basil and Trident for inviting me to participate in the event. Basil always puts on wonderful events and has very great insights for the crowd. What I'd like to share with you opening up is 2021 has been extremely challenging for all of us. However, at the same time, very rewarding. We just finished up from my business unit, the enterprise. We had a record Q3, and we see that momentum going into Q4 and through 2022. So strong revenue growth, and we're getting back to 2019 revenue. So that's great for all of us. The Middle East region has had a great year in and itself, growing in the upper teens. So I want to thank everyone who has supported Panduit in the region. And this could have not been achieved without all your support. And when we look at 2022, I'm extremely optimistic. However, there are still going to be some headwinds as we move into 2022. We're still going to have supply chain challenges. So if you're thinking about projects or they're in your pipeline, think about lead time. Containers are still hard to come by. Shipping times are extended, and that will remain through 2022. The second hurdle is copper. And as you all have seen, the price of copper has been very volatile since the beginning of COVID to now. We're probably at 343 today, or 335, 340 today. It's or 443, pardon me. It has approached $5 a pound, but this will continue. Why is that? It's because of renewable energy and electrification is going to continue to absorb a lot of the copper needed. And so we view that these prices are going to remain elevated. Couple that with the fact that the mines cannot keep up, the copper mines cannot keep up, that we believe that this price is going to hold. So please bake that into your analysis when you're doing your bids moving forward. It's not going to go away anytime soon. Even with all these challenges, as I mentioned earlier, I remain optimistic. I think we're going to grow mid-single digits for 2022. So some market notes from my perspective where I sit, and hopefully interesting tidbits for you. But today I'm going to talk about the digital transformation to a smart building, and we'll jump into this presentation. And when we talk about the smart building, there's really one critical piece of information you need to really keep top of mind. And this is a great slide. This is an evolution and not a revolution. This process has been ongoing for 20 years, and we probably have at least another 20 years to go until we see widespread adoption of the smart building. And I believe that COVID has accelerated much of this as large building owners commercial real estate look for ways to entice personnel to come into their buildings. And a lot of times to get that higher rent and to bring in those higher end clients, you need that smart building. And I want you to think about some of the uses of technology over the past couple years, or maybe for me, 20, 25 years. I've been in the industry quite a long time. And there's a great video out there called The Evolution of the Desk. And it's from the Harvard Business Review. And it demonstrates how our individual space, our workspace, our desk has migrated from being very cluttered back in the 90s to that had paper, it had staple guns anymore. You can't find them, books and whatever, Rolodexes and bulky calendars, to essentially only needing really a laptop and a cell phone. As I recall, at the end of it is sunglasses too, because obviously when you leave, you need your sunglasses. But really, it is really simplified, and everything one by one, all these things transition to the digital world. And we're seeing the same evolution happening within buildings. System by system, digital technology is being adopted to increase the intelligence of our physical space and then enhance our own experiences within it. And I think about, as we've gone through it, and you got to think about use cases as we go through COVID and how this evolution is happening. And I think about occupancy and how do you leverage occupancy to do hot desking. And so that's a newer use case that has really proliferated as businesses try to bring people into the office again, using hot spaces or hot desks, if you would, to place an individual versus a dedicated cube. So again, it's about these use cases that then drive technology that you then adopt, and then it becomes normal part of your life. The two main pillars of the digital transformation when it comes to technology infrastructure is convergence and wireless proliferation. Convergence refers to the network that power and send data to all the systems throughout the building, and it all needs to converge onto an IP network. Wireless proliferation is just that, an abundance of wireless technologies that must seamlessly interact with each other, i.e. their wired counterparts, in order to make the Internet of Things a reality. And when we talk about wireless proliferation, we're going to talk about traditional wireless access points, and we'll talk about 5G and how does 5G play into this. We've been on this convergence journey for a very, very long time. And for the folks, I kind of gave up my age. I've been doing this 25 years. So, you know, we really started with voice and data in the 1990s, saw that convergence. And today, all those systems run on the IP network. Over the past couple decades, more and more of the building systems have begun that migration to the same IP type of style network. Some fun facts for the group here: security systems are just over 50% on IP. Building automation and HVAC systems at about 40%. And we do work with Johnson Controls and some of the other leaders, Simon, as we talk about, you know, where does single pair Ethernet come in? How does that going to help the migration? We believe single pair Ethernet's really going to drive that migration onto that single platform. Might have to be multiple, but then having that overall system that you can then control all your data and you can make business decisions based upon outcomes or inputs to a business decision that then creates an outcome. And we see single pair Ethernet as one of those technologies that will help migrate us forward. Frank Straka will talk about that tomorrow with you. And then lighting and sensing are just in the infancy stages of growth. A couple more fun facts, you know, 75% of the existing buildings out there, this comes from some of our commercial real estate friends like CBRE or Cushman Wakefield, 75% of the existing buildings are dumb, with 60% of the space being built well over 20 years ago. So there's plenty of opportunity for us to create new smart buildings with all that existing old technology out there. And you got to really wonder, what were they thinking when they built those buildings? Are they ready to be converged? I'm going to say no. So there's plenty of work for us to do as we move forward. The vision of the true smart building is founded on the implementation of a single, we talk about the single network. This common network will be across the IT and OT areas, and it will be converged. This network will offer a simplified power delivery, so we're talking about PoE here, and will integrate with automation software and IoT devices to provide a holistic, detailed approach to how the facility operates. So you want to bring in all that data, you want to be able to digest it, and then make business decisions upon that. At the end of the day, hopefully giving you a return on your investment. So it's about really thinking about those applications or those use cases that you can work on to improve your smart building. And really, why do you want to do that? And it depends on where you sit. The CFO is going to want you to provide an ROI on adding all that new technology to manage your personnel and whatnot. For our commercial real estate partners, they want to attract premium tenants. For Panduit overall, we want to have a great work environment to attract talent and retain talent. We also view long-term that this is going to simplify the management of the building overall, and it's going to reduce the overall costs. It's going to make you more efficient. And for many of us, it could become a competitive differentiator, i.e. a better space, higher rent hours, or for Panduit or for yourself, if you're running a business or a business owner, it's about making sure your most important asset, your personnel, are happy and you can retain them long-term. And when we think about this, we begin to think about the fourth utility. This is just like the basic utilities that we have today in our buildings, be it water, gas, and electricity. We've come to depend on it in all aspects of our life, and it's getting to be wintertime here. I'm looking out the window here. It's getting cool. The leaves are dropping, and I just turned my heat on the other day. So having all those make sure that we can live the way that we are used to. And the IP network that is going to be used for the data and communication, that will become the fourth utility, that converged infrastructure that we talk about. The fourth utility will be the foundation of the smart building, having a common network infrastructure for communications, data, and then analytics, and combining it with building automation, offer a foundation for building operators to be able to provide returns to their business. We talk about adoption. Who's adopting this? Where do we see the smart buildings and who's taking it on? Really, the high-tech companies are to the right have really taken it on because they need to bring in that great talent that they need. So they have very interesting work areas and smart buildings because they are in the thick of technology. That's what they do every day. It's part of their DNA. Luxury hotels, another area, they're looking for ways to provide their guests the most personalized experience, which the smart building can do. My brother was telling me that when he goes to a hotel in DC, when he gets into his room, he's a Diet Coke person. There's 4 or 5 Diet Cokes already in the refrigerator because they know what he likes. So they're catering to him. So he does enjoy going back to that location over and over again. Large government buildings are often early, but they're not the first by any means. These buildings include technology as a means of adopting adoption of new regulations or environmental sustainability. Higher education, as we go on the other side of it, is there to try to bring the best talent, both educators, scientists, people who are going to study and provide papers and create the university as a thought leader. You want to attract them, but you also want to attract the best students. So having that is very, very important. And then when we get to the K through 12, they're 1 or 2 generations behind the curve, and they're not really early adopters. Now the retail industry, I'm really going to watch this one to see how they respond. We've seen how the retailers have had to move from their traditional brick and mortar to more of that Amazon experience, delivering quickly and on time. I believe, and we're seeing some of these, what we're calling their Amazon Go stores, where you walk in, highly leveraged in technology, cameras, different sensors to understand what you're putting in your bag. So how it works, you have cameras throughout the whole building. And as you walk and take products, it's registering what you're taking and putting in your basket. And when you leave, it knows who you are based upon your cell phone because you opened an account, and it just bills your Apple Pay account. It's pretty ingenious, and I'm looking forward to see how that Amazon to Go works out for us. We have one being built here in Chicago down the street here. I want to get inside of it. I've seen pictures of how much structured cabling is in it, and it's millions of feet. So how is that going to migrate, and will the bigger retailers take that on to be determined? But that is an opportunity for us in the future. Now let's talk a little bit about wireless proliferation. We've covered about network convergence and the importance of it. The second piece to this puzzle is really wireless proliferation. There's a number of different wireless technologies all coming to a head in the market. The 2 that we are probably most familiar with are 5G and Wi-Fi. There's a lot of conversation in the market around 5G, but its potential impact on the Internet of Things, and for good reasons. But the thing to remember is 5G, as it stands today, is mostly being utilized in the outdoors. Once it gets inside of the building, which I'll talk about in a couple of slides, you'll see Wi-Fi and 5G living together harmoniously, if you would, in the environment within the building. Here I've got, on this slide, we're showing 5G adoption on the bottom and Wi-Fi 6 adoption on the top. And I'm going to focus on the Wi-Fi 6. That is the latest generation, was released in late 2019 and has really taken off and getting a lot of good press. It brings new functionality to Wi-Fi, and it makes it comparable to the performance of 5G from a device density, or the number of devices that can be connected, along with latency. We expect Wi-Fi 6 to dominate the market for the indoors for the next 3 to 5 years. Why we await Wi-Fi 7. So we've got that coming up here in 2023, 2024. We'll see if Wi-Fi 7, where it goes. Interesting enough, will Wi-Fi 7 be twisted pair? Will it be fiber being pulled to it? To be determined. So we are actually having discussions internally here. When it goes to Wi-Fi 7, will we be leveraging hybrid fiber running to that Wi-Fi 7 to be determined in the future, but it's in the back of our mind. And as I mentioned, Wi-Fi and 5G will coexist. They'll handshake between each other's application. When we look at the 5G maturity, it's going to be a while, and I'll kind of show you from an in-building wireless on the next slide what it might look like in the future. And it's an opportunity for all of us. So over the last probably 6-8 months, we've really been looking more at in-building wireless and how that could affect us and how can Panduit participate. And interesting enough, 80% of the another fun fact, 80% of all the cellular calls occur indoors. Wireless carriers are trying to offload, if you think about it, as much of their macro site traffic as possible to indoor solutions. And when we look at the market, and we'll go into the center here, there are two markets or verticals within the market. One is cellular, which we are all familiar with, and then you have the public safety one, which is below. Panduit's going to focus on the cellular portion because that's where we're very strong, and that's where we can be very successful. So what is in-building wireless at the end of the day? It's the distribution of wireless signals inside the building to provide data and voice connectivity overall. And there are two types provided today. You've got your direct antenna system, which is what we're going to focus on, and then you have these small cells that could be distributed throughout your building. What this solves is what it solves is being able to give you that use of your cellular within the building. I'm pretty far within our building here, and we don't have a very good in-building wireless system here at Panduit presently. So I leverage outside, and because of the windows and the materials used, we've got a metal building with a granite exterior and windows with some very EV type of materials over the top that shields the RF signal. So very much with these fortified constructed buildings like hospitals, government buildings, you can't get that signal inside. So it's going to be critical that you move to an in-building wireless system and you have a good one there to provide the coverage with acceptable to your business and to your users. And when we look at the benefits, it's really going to give productivity and it's going to improve the user experience. If you're owning the building and you have tenants, it's going to satisfy the tenants. It's going to become table scraps, because what's going to happen here is you're going to have the in-building wireless system at 5G and the 5G radios throughout your building. And that's going to be on an open network, most likely going back to your carriers. And then you're going to have your wireless access points throughout, which are controlled on the base system or within the IT group system that is protected. And for Panduit, what does this new active DAS system look like? To the right, if you look to the right, you could see many of the products utilized from the head end to the equipment are all our traditional structured cabling, fiber cable, OM1, along with fiber and copper connectivity as you get up into the radios. So you're going to see this migration to 5G here probably in the next 2 to 5 years. Stay tuned. We're going to continue to expand and develop our offerings for this market. And then as we finish up here, one thing to take away from the presentation, remember that digital transformation is an evolution, not a revolution. Technology adoption within the building is going to happen, but it's going to happen slowly over time. We'll find ourselves, before you know it, working and living in buildings that are truly smart, providing data from disparate systems, all connected via a single IP network, driving decisions that will enhance our experience and improve the overall building performance. The thing to keep in mind, the physical infrastructure decisions you make today could make or break the adoption of the technologies as they go out in the future. So our recommendation is plan ahead, take care of and take care to install high quality products. And Panduit is here to help you achieve those goals. I'm hoping that you could attend tomorrow's meeting with Frank Straka, where he's going to go a little more deeper into the foundation of convergence. And I would like to thank you for your time and have a great event.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's my pleasure to engage with you today, and thank you for attending our session. Very excited to have this time together. As Tom said, it would be really fantastic to be in person, but I appreciate your patience as we continue down this journey of everything remote. My name is Jeff Paliga. I'm responsible for our business development for our global data center offering. And today we spent a little time covering off what we're seeing in the market for the data center, some of the trends and drivers. Share a little bit with the Panduit strategy, how we find opportunities, where we see the opportunities in the data center space, and then cover off a couple spots where we're investing pretty heavily to capitalize on this this wonderful market. The data center market, just to share with you globally, has been fantastic, right? And unfortunately, there was a pandemic that drove a lot of that. But as we talk about digital transformation and companies expediting their investment in IT spend, application spend, data center spend, it's really provided a tremendous amount of growth, opportunities, and challenges. Some companies have fared better than others. And I think that's really sort of magnified the need as we talk about, as Tom covered even on the enterprise side, right? Sort of future-proofing, planning for the future. Again, not necessarily over-provisioning, but having a nice seamless migration plan going forward is more prominent now than ever. And those companies that we work with that have done a good job are obviously seeing those results and benefits. The companies that weren't as prepared or weren't investing or weren't thinking in those terms are going to have some difficulties, but the challenges and opportunities still remain. So let me just move through the slides here. So again, I talked about a little bit, we're going to mention the market trends and drivers. So I wanted to start with this slide. We hear this term quite a bit, this hybrid IT term. I'm kind of a person, very pragmatic. When I hear these terms, I'm always curious to find out what that means from a technology perspective, what that means from infrastructure perspective, what that means for us as partners and customers and end users. What does it actually mean? What's the impact on our business? And it's quite interesting. Hybrid IT, it's many things, but really at the core of it, it's now a list of opportunities, right? Or options for the data center owner, operator, business owners, line of business owners, to have an ability now to place applications, because that's what data centers exist for, right? To support applications. It's now a list of options or opportunities or alternates to actually deploy those workloads wherever it makes the most sense, meaning cost-wise, performance-wise, security-wise, growth-wise. So years ago, we used to talk about a data center solution. That's not the case today. Today, it's data center solutions, plural. In each of these segments, whether it's on-prem, which is on-premise, typical enterprise data center, co-location or multi-tenant data center, cloud or hyperscale, and even at the bottom edge, right? Edge is this new and up-and-coming piece. When we look at this space, we don't look at putting one of these segments against the other. So for example, we're not saying on-premise is competing directly with co-location or edge is competing with cloud. The way this is all working is there's an orchestration needed, right? And this is where the opportunity comes in for us, is to work with our end users and our clients and our customers and partners to figure out, really have the discussion. What is your IT strategy? What is your roadmap? Are you going to be deploying? You will be deploying, I can say that, you will be deploying some type of a hybrid approach, which means no longer can we talk about a design and build of a data center that they're going to own and operate, or if they have 10 of the same type of data centers, they're going to put their applications in multiple physical locations. And therein lies the opportunity. The good news is the layer one infrastructure that Panduit provides and Trident provides will be necessary no matter what space they're locating those applications in. But there will be an opportunity to have this diversification. So when you look at the market size, right, we put a couple of statistics up there. You can see where the CAGR, the compounded annual growth rate, that's over the next couple of years, where the growth is coming from. Obviously, co-location and cloud are the largest in terms of percentage. But when you look at market share, what we always like to remind people, if you look back at that on-premise all the way to the left, that is still about 70% of the market share. So again, we're not saying don't focus on that business. That's a big footprint. There's a lot of legacy systems in there. There's a lot of opportunity to renovation and upgrade and put in next generation technologies. And do it in a way that wasn't really known before, right? So you don't want to just revamp those on-prem sites the way they were built before. We've learned so much in the past 5 years or so that we have some best practices that are very specific for each of these regions. So again, when you hear hybrid IT, think about what your customer, mainly that end user, is going through. He or she has got to figure out where to put these applications, where does it make sense? And there's a lot of challenge there. And that's where we can step in and help work through these options and have some best practices in each of those locations. So when we look at what's really driving it, right, as I said, as a person that's been in the data center business for a while, I use this quite often. People normally don't want to build a data center, right? They have to build a data center, which is good. They have to support those applications, their business needs, the healthcare needs, the educational needs, the government needs. There's a reason that they're built. But what's driving that transformation, as you look here, is customers sort of reassessing and rethinking what that means. So at the end of the day, customers want to focus on their core competencies. If I'm a bank, if I'm a hospital, if I'm a government, that's my expertise. I need this data center, I need this technology, this IT deployment to help me run my business. But through that, they want to focus on the core competency, which means we need to work on simplifying, the physical security that supports that. We have to improve the network performance, and we really want to streamline the long-term planning. Again, when you think about the previous slide, hybrid IT, this is what customers are dealing with. It's no longer just that one data center or the 5 data centers they own. They're looking to manage, and a lot of that stuff becomes outside of their control, so to speak, the day-to-day. So they want to focus on a core competency. Therein lies our ability to partner and bring that expertise to help them in that journey. Secondly, flexibility. We hear about data centers all the time. They used to be monolithic and stagnant. That's not the case today. They have to be flexible. I'll say agile. In many cases, things need to scale up. Sometimes things scale down depending on your business needs. The workloads get moved depending on how the workloads were designed. Were they cloud enabled? Were they legacy systems that have to migrate, right? There's a lot of workloads that aren't just going to go away. They're going to have to be maintained and supported going into the future. And then of course, remote employees. I touched on this in the opening, everything remote today. Everything's remote. E-commerce, education, healthcare. It's just full of potential to make these data centers flexible and agile to take on that type of workload. And then lastly, you can't speak about these investments without talking about CapEx and OpEx, right? And so, a number we've had for a long time, for about every dollar it takes to build a data center, there's about $10 to support it over its lifetime, right? So we can't just stop at the front end investment. There's an ongoing day-to-day cost, operational cost, where really the savings and performance come out on the operational side. Having an environment that's agile, that has some level of intelligence, that can adapt, is really where customers are going to benefit, right? Because as much as we want to talk about next generation roadmaps and where things are going, we can't always get it right. We don't know exactly what the future holds. But if we looked at things, we looked at building out data centers that are very predictable, we can limit that capital outlay, or we can extend the life cycle of that data center, extend that investment. That's a huge upside for the customers, right? And then anything we could take out, if there's lengthy processes, you'll see again, the hybrid IT model, not only is it different and provides options, but there's a pace of business that is much different in the past, right? As opposed to building your own data center, designing it and operating it. When you go into a co-location site or a multi-tenant data center, the rate at which applications are stood up and the environment it runs is very quick. So there's not a lot of time for long-term planning. It has to be done quickly and collaboratively. So when we look at the opportunity size here, there's a couple categories, a lot of numbers here, but I can tell you these are, in my opinion, these are very good numbers, right? When you look at the CAGR, the compounded annual growth rate, whether it's for IP traffic, 41%, that's incredible. Is anyone's business out there growing 41% a year? It's amazing. The number of internet users, here's where I just want to spend a little time, right? So in your region, right? And again, this has probably been expedited with the pandemic, but when you look at the number of internet users, 32%, which is roughly a third. These numbers tell me your region is full of opportunity and potential to move forward, right? As we've seen this in other theaters in other countries and parts of the world, as that number of internet users adopt and become more, day-to-day users of the internet itself, all the other applications, the IT builds outs, the investments, the data centers, the business levels just rise, right? All boats rise, in a rising tide. So there is a lot of potential in the region as more users come on, become more daily users of the internet, tremendous growth. And then when you look at network devices, 8% growth is really strong. And then you look at where broadband speeds, these are all interrelated, right? As the number of users grow, as the amount of internet traffic grows, video traffic specifically, IP traffic, all the numbers are going to go up. So the point here is strong numbers in the region, great opportunities for all of us. And we can expect more of this to come as we move forward here. And again, I would expect a lot of this has been expedited with the current pandemic and some of the investment for all the remote users. Okay, so from that, how does that relate to our strategy and something called a growth priority strategy for Panduit? So the good news here, these boxes, these columns cover basically our 4 core tenets or pillars of our data center strategy. And we march against these all the time. Now we monitor and adjust against these, but really what we're looking at, as you can see, that on-premise data center business, I mentioned that's still 70% of the business. So we want to protect and grow. It's full of opportunity for renovation and upgrades, but we also know we have to work with the fastest growing segments, accelerated growth in the co-location and hyperscale providers. And so the way we do that is these 4 categories. We focus on solving market challenges. We want to grow the partner community. We want to really excel at servicing those partners and customers. And we're looking for that innovation to create market value. Now, these may look like high-level words to you, but I can assure you the way we approach this is very much firsthand with absolute validated information. So what do I mean by that? When we look at focusing on market challenges, I'll show you a couple slides coming up, but we really want to understand what those top of mind challenges are. Like I said, when we engage with customers and partners, we want to make sure we understand where the business needs are, where they might need help. And then we drive into that, whether it's products or systems or programs. We have to solve those market challenges. Every day we're being challenged to provide the value. How is it tangible? How is it measurable? And that's at the core of what we do. Next category is grow the partner community. So events like today in the next couple of days, right? With Trident, with yourselves, as much opportunity is out there, nobody can do it alone, right? It's just too complicated. It's just the scope is too far. You have to have a partner community to excel in these spaces. So we know that, we value that. So times like this, these events that we're participating in are hugely important for us to strengthen that partner community. Additionally, as we excel, right, the pace of business is just changed. And this was prior to the pandemic, right? We saw this accelerated growth happening pre-pandemic, but it's really been magnified. But the way we do business, the way we transact, the way we engage, the way we share information, that's at the core. You have to have quality products. You have to have that breadth of product, but you have to be able to service customers and partners at the pace of business that they expect. And then lastly, innovation. At the core, Panduit is a global manufacturer, high quality manufacturer, and we take pride in that. And so when we look to innovate, we look for ways, again, not only on the initial design, but other ways that these products can help operate and migrate in the environment where there's operational efficiencies, there's capacity provisions built in. And we think of all those things down to the extreme detail for our customers. And then the way that we wrap that right is with global dynamic marketing. Our supply chain's been an interesting year, right? No question there, but we understand those products have to get out to where they need to be. So we've had a lot of interesting new innovations and new approaches around our global supply chain that are going to help us, that are helping us now and will help us into the future. And again, then tying it back to some digital capabilities at the pace of business, the rate, the way people want to engage, how they engage with us are all top of mind and all part of our data center strategy. Okay, so when I talked about the segments and where we focus, a couple of them. So this is specific to cloud providers, right? I could tell you 7-8 years ago, we were talking about a single data center solution. Well, as times have changed, right? We've gone out and understood these cloud providers are very influential. They're growing tremendously, but we don't stop there. As part of that strategy, right? Focusing on market solutions or market opportunities. These are the things that they're most concerned with. Their time to market, operational efficiency, and safety and security. And I'll start with the last one first. Interesting enough, safety and security in a cloud provider environment, a hyperscale provider environment, huge footprint, physical footprint, a lot of square meters, right? There's an element that comes with that. There's inherent risk as you employ more folks, you have more property under your portfolio. The safety issues become more and more prevalent. They're always top of mind, but we're seeing a huge opportunity here for us to go in and do a couple of things. Look at the customer's environment from a safety standpoint, be able to recommend safety products that help them move forward. The human side, the element is equally as important as any of the elements and more important, but we're seeing a huge uptake and interest in business in having safety and security elements built into these environments, right? So, and then of course you can work it backwards. Everybody's looking at operational efficiency, but with cloud providers, They want consistency. They want that same look and feel. Again, they have to at the scales that they're building. They don't want a mixed environment. They want it very predictable. They want it repeatable, and they want to have it anywhere they want in the globe, around the world. Of course, time to market, right? These environments are spun up very quickly. So a company like Panduit, as I've talked about previously about our agile supply chain, that has become such a benefit for our customers and partners that Panduit has a global footprint, true global capabilities, and we can deploy these solutions anywhere in the world. I think a lot of companies in the past were winning in maybe one product category in one part of the world in one region. For cloud providers, it has to be breadth of product and available in any corner of the world. And then just another one to show, again, co-location providers, very interesting space, right? Because here you have the providers themselves, and then you have tenants that occupy that space. So this is a great opportunity for all of us, right? As you know, Panduit, Trident, we have great relationships with end users. It goes back to one of the first slides I showed, that hybrid IT, understanding where those tenants, where those end users are going. Are they going to put in disaster recovery sites? Are they going to be in a co-location facility, hyperscale, on-prem? Is it a mix, which it probably will be? Do they have an edge deployment strategy? So from that, again, this is very interesting to understand who we're speaking to in the space. So in this area, onboarding customers and workloads, again, the pace of business here is amazing, right? So that has to be done quickly. Very similar here is to the cloud. They want standards, right? MTDC providers, colo providers want a consistent environment. You don't want any inherent risk, right? You don't want any unknowns, whether it's outages or designs or configurations. They want that consistency across the board. And then the third one says streamline vendor relationships. This is hugely important for us because Panduit for years has had the strongest, widest breadth of product. That alone can help simplify this. This helps the vendors, the MTDC providers, not have to go out for 7 different requests for quotes or requests for proposals, right? It can be done quickly through our work, the breadth of offering, and making it simple for these folks to go in and specify the products they need and not have a long drawn out process to actually specify and bring equipment in. And then again, backed by a company like Panduit and Trident, we can deliver that into those regions quickly and efficiently. So I just want to spend, I just have a couple more slides. So I mentioned earlier, I want to share where our mindset is, where we're looking for investments. It should come as no surprise. So fiber solutions, when you look at the breadth of products inside the data center, I could go on and on, right? Panduit covers pretty much every element inside the space, but just a couple of the product sets here we're looking at from fiber, just so everybody knows. Our goal is to lead and win and be innovative in the fiber space. And we're doing a great job, right? The feedback we're getting, the investments we're making, the product developments we're putting out, really encouraged by what the team's been able to do here. So when you look at things newer coming out in OSF and ODF, an optical splice frame, optical distribution frame, something we haven't had in our portfolio, Panduit's going to be bringing that to the market here very soon, and by fourth quarter, in fact, by the end of this year. Pathways, we continue to lead in the fiber runner space, but looking at more traditional pathways, wire basket, again, building out our portfolio. Going to continue to invest in fiber, whether it's patch cords, OM3, OM4, OM5, high fiber count assemblies. Connectivity is one of our specialties where we're accelerating, right? So there's a whole roadmap. A lot of these products, by the way, are introduced, or if they're not, they'll be out in the next 2 months. And our HD Flex system, right? So this is core of where we are. We truly see the innovation. We're going to continue investing in this space. This is one of those foundational elements, regardless of what type of data center you have, on-prem, co-location, hyperscale, cloud, or edge. Fiber is going to continue to be a strong place inside those environments. So Panduit is investing. I talked about the growth priority strategy. That means we're accelerating our focus and our investment in this area. Secondly, and lastly, the other area is power, right? When I think of data centers, I think of many different things, but when you boil it down, there's really 2 major elements: data and power, right? You have to have those 2 things for a data center to actually work and be functional. So when we look, in addition to the fiber investment, Panduit's really looking at the power solutions inside the data center. It's a natural adjacent piece for Panduit. When you look at all the challenges inside the data center, when you talk about power and cooling, they're interrelated. So whether it's things we have today like the rack mount PDU, looking at in-row UPSs, there's environments, there's security, there's pieces, the intelligence sides come with that. So there's the DSIM element. So today, what I can tell you is when we look at what's inside there, it's not a static environment, right? Power is one of those things that need to be monitored. It's a big cost center, it's a big opportunity, but you have to have some level of intelligence to go in there. So we're not promoting just putting in power units, there has to be some level of intelligence, some type of software to override that, to bring that in, then environmental information, security information, power information. This helps with capacity planning across the board. So again, data and power, two primary things for Panduit. Just want to share with you, this is a huge investment area for Panduit, and you'll see us continually roll out new product sets as we go forward around the power segment. So with that, went through a quick high level. Again, I just would like to say thank you for attending. I hope you're having a great afternoon. I know the Trident team does a great job there. Thank you for partnering with Panduit. If you're for customers, thank you for your business. We look forward to our continued mutual success here with yourselves and the Trident team. And again, we hope you're able to join us. We'll be presenting a little bit more on digital transformation and a much deeper dive into the data center, what that means, what the solutions are, what the challenges are. So we hope to see you again tomorrow, and we thank you for your time.